Okay. Adequate notice of this regularly scheduled meeting of the Frenchtown Board of Education has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act by notification to the Hunterdon County Democrat on January 12th, 2023. A copy of this notice has also been posted at the public school at the municipal building and filed with the borough clerk. And will stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Blackburn.
Here.
Mrs. Bobrowski.
Here.
Mr. Germany.
Here.
Ms. Nakahara. Ms. Norman.
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Here.
Mrs. Nugent.
Here. And we're going to start with a presentation from Jim about the Start Strong testing.
Oh, you are, you were just sitting my seat. Okay. Oh, thank you. Welcome to. We go with lights or should probably go and dim it. All right, good evening, everyone. So tonight we're going to review over our fall administration of the Start Strong sport, our students participated in. So figure it would be good to kind of, this is year 2 of the Start Strong, so just kind of do a quick overview, took some of the information from the state in preparing for this. So as we know, and just this is, as the state wants us to depict it, basically is, information to be used as standards based to complement the resources by educators, right, in the building, administered quickly in person, and provided immediate results. The assessments are, do not, and I think it's important to say, replace local standard based benchmark assessments, and they do not replace the spring NJSLA testing. So just so people are in the loop of, how the state wants, the intention of the assessment as well as how they want us to use it. Basically, it's done on the prior year. And I'll break this down a little bit more on this slide. So for instance, just a little bit simpler, if the student is currently enrolled in grade 4, they would participate in the ELA, and that would be based upon the grade 3 ELA. Okay, because we'd be coming back from fall. So that just kind of goes for all. But I just thought it would be a nice, easy way for us to kind of identify what students were assessed on based upon their grade level. So again, grade 5, then they would be assigned that particular test, and that would be based upon the grade 4 ELA content and so forth. Okay. Basically, same mapping here, just so another point for our reference. So along the way, and then down here it gets a little bit with the map. You see it grade 6, they're available to use a 4-function calculator, So things do change a little bit as they get that 7th, 8th grade assessment pieces. And then likewise for geometry, we're here. This covers the high school level, but just so you can kind of see what we're doing. Okay. And then grade 6, which is our students did participate in the science. This is what they were provided. So, the state encourages just to talk about, obviously some of the impacts of, the COVID-19 learning. I mean, we're all aware of that. We've been all living that. We've all been adjusting and making adjustments through that. No, it strictly says districts should not compare any of the individual student data to that of the NJSLA. Please note the Start Strong assessment was not designed to predict future student performance on the NJSLA or likewise. And then, the whole point of the individual student scores is basically to have a conversation, with your teacher if needed, or ask me or whoever, just to kind of, see where everything's aligns with your student And then basically the assessment data should be analyzed along other important measures of student outcomes. This shouldn't really be a standalone thing, right? It should be marking period grades, formative assessments, summative assessments, data that's collected in the classroom, and so forth. So just, again, trying to just share where, again, the attentions were. So let's look at, so going back, and we know the whole less than, 10 or less rule in reporting. So really, we're going to focus on the 5th and 6th grade because our 4th grade and our 7th grade and our 8th grade don't qualify. So it's going to be, the next slides are all going to be comparative because we do have years to compare 21 versus 22 in the areas for 5th and 6th grade. So that's the bulk of our discussion here tonight. So just bringing back the scoring system, the less support, meaning the student really doesn't need very much support at all in the sake of the test for Start Strong, and they may need some support, and then strong support is our level. So we look at our 5th grade, again, this is assessments of general ed and special education students all together. When we first came back after that 6 weeks, you see that we were less support was 40%, some support was 20%, and the strong support was 40% in ELA for 5th graders. Then year 2, we take it again. You see our strong support went from 40 to 10%, for some support went from 20 to 30. So an increase in that, and then a less support additionally was 40, and now it's at 60%. So some gains there.
This is this year's 5th grade.
This is the 2022 5th grade. Yes, correct. So you can see there's definitely, and I'll break this down a little bit later, but you can see, I'm just trying to show the growth because we don't have a significant amount to talk about tonight. So I'll go in through each of them.
So that shows an improvement basically, right?
Correct. Yep. So if you really, you see our strong support levels this year are only 10%, whereas last year, this time it was 40%. So that's, I focus a lot of our thoughts really just on the strong support as one body, and then a less support and some support as that other. And I'll speak to that a little bit later, but yes, to your point.
Jim, I have a question. Sorry, my
Yep.
brain is like not functioning probably. Are those the same students? And so we're comparing, or are these 2 different classes?
No, this is the same class.
These are the same
Yeah,
class,
taking
different
the-
times of, okay, all
Right.
right, thank you.
Could be depending on, could be 1 or 2, depending if they're here or not, but
Right, but
generally,
it's generally
yes.
the same group. Okay,
So in 2021, it was the 4th grade for our current 5th grade.
correct. Yeah, it's our 5th grade scores, for this year's 5th grade scores. We'll compare 6th grade last year and then this year too. Okay. So that's an ELA piece. And we go to the math piece. A little bit different. You'll see last year, less support was just 10%. So that higher group, then some support was 20. And we had, big group of strong support in math in 5th grade. Then this year, we go from less support, we went from 10 to 20%. We went from 20 to 30% in some support, and then our strong support level was at 70 and went to 50. So again, we're showing growth, which we're happy to see that in this way, like just taking in data, we're happy to see growth in that way. But this would definitely be, our ELA scores in this grade were a little bit certainly higher on this particular test for them. Okay, so that's the math piece. And then we can go to 6th grade ELA. So last year, this time, 6th grade ELA, less support. Really nice big chunk, almost 54%. And then some support. So really, we're talking well over 80% were in that group. And then our strong support was just over 15%. And then a year, fast track a year later, we're into our less support went from 53 up to 57%. So we gained a little. Our some support went down a little bit, but it's also because we went up, and then our strong support is 1% less. So we're really just talking about a shift or two of students, we really look at it, that went up a little bit. And I can break that down a little bit. I'll break it down a little bit percentage wise later. But we're just, we really started in a good spot with a nice big chunk of orange and blue here with less than some, well over 80%. To start. That's our ELA. And then our math. We started out in last year 38.5 for less support, 23.1. So over 6% in that grouping, and then strong support at that point, right? This year, we have our less support was 28.6. Our some support is 42.9, and our level 1 strong support is down to 28.6. So we've definitely shown some growth there too. Our less support is 1 down. We had 1 student, and it really, and I could speak to it. The range levels are like, I don't want to misspeak on it. Our range levels, depending on the area, could be like 0 to 7 or 8 to 11 or 12 to 20, for instance. So if a student, let's just say a student had a 7 last year, they would be in one category. If they got an 8, they would be in another category. So it's literally a point, and that's the difference on the 1 student that's showing that difference there. They were literally on the cusp of, if that makes sense. And I can speak to that because we're such a small district, and looking at the data and really knowing exactly who, I know in my head who it is. We can just kind of talk about. So again, data sometimes is a little, it's very real, but it can also be explained, like I said, whereas they had a point in one direction or another, and that's really what it was. Just looking at it specifically. That's the math piece. And then our science piece is just standalone because it's them just doing the science. And that's a reflective, of the 3 through 5 science, and the less support was 28.6, some support 42.9, and then strong support was 28.6. So we have a big chunk, nearly 70% in that less than some in regards to the science. This is a tough one to kind of compare to. We really have to rely on our other pieces of data and marking period grades and formative assessments to kind of work through that. So just kind of like recapping the things that we can speak of. 5th grade, there's a 30% increase from 2021 to 2022 in that less than some categories they kind of talked about. There's bigger pieces. 5th grade, 20% score increase from 21 to 22, again in math in the less than some. 6th grade, 92%. I kind of did it as a different piece. So 92 students started the same. So meaning like if they had a less, let's say they had some support a number 2, or they had strong or less support a number 3, 90% of students started the same or increased the level in ELA. And one of our students in that group actually went up 2 levels, which is good in data term. And then in 6th grade, 77% of students stayed at that same level, taking it year 2 or increase 1 level. And then we also had another student in that grade increase 2 levels in the ELA piece. So what is it? So those are just pieces that you see. So we didn't have, for instance, a student that was less support with a 3 that dropped any like a level or 2. And I've looked at a couple of the, honestly, in this 5th and 6th grade, there was 4 in all of the groupings. And we were really talking about, as I was talking about that range, it's like 1 or 2 points difference, where it was in our favor maybe last year, and then maybe this year it's not. I mean, it's just really that close. We're not talking a student that's at a 3 that's at a 4, 3 to 14. We're really talking students in that 6, 7, 8 range, or 13, 14, 15 range that are making those differences. And it's only based upon those 3 ranges. So that's a little bit more of a breakdown of that information. So I thought it would be interesting for us just to kind of reflect and say, hey, where we were last year this time. So this is exactly what from the slide we put together last year. saying first time students engage in this test in school, 2 years in school, grade 4, first time ever participating, grade 6, first time ever participating in science. That would be the same case this year, which you'll see in a minute. And then students participate 6 weeks after their return to the full schedule. That was last year. So just things that we were talking about. And then we were making some thoughts of, some things that we were considering in budgetary and programmatically. Summer accelerated program, schedule supports, basic skills teacher, we incorporated this year, tutor time, which has been a big hit and continues, and then instructional and others for the period next. Just looking at that, what we could do at that time based upon COVID guidance and 3 feet apart and 6, we were running the gamut of those type of things. That was last year. So then our team right now, as we look at it again, this is now second time participating in a 12-month period. Grade 4 and 6, that's their first time engaging in these testings. Students are back to a full schedule for a year now. Instructional approaches, we've really since last marking period, but we were still teetering it a little bit. This year we are together. We are working together. We're doing partner groups. We're doing smaller groups. We're really back to, I say, really good instruction opportunities for student and peer learning, along with the teacher and group learning, which I just think makes a tremendous difference on a daily basis. And those opportunities. And then things that we are now in the process of talking, and as I said last meeting, we'll be talking about and making some, thoughts for recommendations right now, or again, those summer programs, which are been proven to be, beneficial to keep students, or regular ed students, abreast throughout the summer, right? Basic skills teacher, again, with that component in mind, tutor time. I think one of the things our team is looking at is trying to land somebody 5th through 8th for an after school program opportunity for academic support. That's something that we're seeing that could be beneficial. So that's something that our team's thinking about, and who might do that. Supported master schedule that discusses possibly increase in math minutes for next year, which, just based upon some of the data that we've been seeing. With that said, that also increases the potential for we have to do special education increase. So those are things that Teresa and I are looking at now, after the teams have met. And again, instructional measures, as the various areas of need in those areas. So our team is now looking at specifically some of the standards where we did high, but we're also looking at the more specifically in the areas that our students should need some more support, and how about where we're doing it, and what curriculum or what area might that be covered, or could we be more repetitive with? And that's where we're at right now with our teams, as we look at that information as we continue to plan for next year. And again, this shifts, this is budget, this is things that we'll be knocking out over the next really 8 weeks. Yeah, for sure. March is going to be here before we know it. So yeah, those are. Is there any? Again, thanks again for your time and attention. Any questions or anything that you would like me to look into? That could be, helpful or.
So a couple of questions, Jim. So the beginning of the presentation is pretty clear on what Start Strong is not. A little less clear on what it is. It seems to me that it's primarily to gauge the amount of support our students need or don't need.
Yeah, it's basically giving. We're always assessing. We're assessing in reading levels. We're assessing math levels, like mid-year, like beginning year assessments, mid-year assessments, end of year assessments, and we take. That's an in-house thing. We have, our Fontes Finel, which is basically a reading level, and we kind of go so all those gamuts that we do typically, right? And then you're just typical classroom assessments. That information is meant to be as another component, right? The Start Strong information is supposed to be not a standalone, but another layer of information. And it can show, to your point, it can show an area of need for a student in a specific spot. So it's yes, it's not supposed to be like, so big, I think the biggest takeaway is always, it's just not supposed to be like, take that test and then go running. Hey, I need help in this area. However, if this is showing it, we're seeing this in a content area, we're seeing this maybe in 2 marking period grades that have, if we're a student, let's just say that has, I'll just give an example where a student has a 65 and then maybe a 72. That's maybe areas that the team should be looking at. The teacher should be asking about that. The teacher is probably bringing that information to administration or other teammates in that discussion.
So this is voluntary, or are we required to do this?
There's voluntary for,
The school, do we have to do this, Start Strong, or? is it a
we
voluntary program?
do have to participate in. Yeah,
And he talked about how long it's gonna go, how long they're gonna have it. I mean, it was a reactionary thing for COVID.
initially, yeah.
So
I
any discussion about like,
now that NJSLA is back, right? We
Yeah.
had that in the spring. I think a lot of us were thinking, okay, then we're back to what it
Right.
used to be, which wasn't the fall testing again.
Yeah.
However, that wasn't the case. I can't say I've heard anything regarding
next year?
next year. I know we were gonna have obviously NJSLA again in the spring. Our dates are set for May. And we'll just wait to hear further communication, but the NJSLA focus is what I'm hearing right now in
Yeah.
prepping and training and things like that.
Oh, I thought math was one of the areas that it generally improved in. Why would we want to add math minutes instead of recess minutes? My constituents will remind me.
Yeah, so I think recess minutes is an interesting thing. If there's middle school, like just being transparent, like there's middle schools in our district that don't have recess, 6, 7, 8. That doesn't exist. We've kept that here as something that I've heard along with the team here that we do need that.
Or increase lunch minutes. That was the other thing.
Right, I think right now we have a 50-minute period and we're cutting them in half, like they're cut in half, 25 minutes and 25 minutes, which is giving us 5 minutes more than what we typically have to do for recess. It's definitely something we could look at. I think math minutes is something, if you've seen national data, not that national data, but if math is just definitely an area that's been reported as a need for us. Our data shows that we could, I think fifth grade, 6th grade did better. 5th grade could use some support, but I think for us, we have to break down internally, which can't have that public conversation, is more about general ed versus special ed. So math minutes is just something we're looking at right now comparatively to our ELA minutes, which are more because they're reading and writing and they're often paired together. So it's just something we're taking in consideration. It might not necessarily be, depending on if we can make that happen with the special ed component. But then if that's not the case, then we want to maybe be more in the after school support, or maybe we can create a math enrichment point in our schedule for middle school students or something along those lines. I think what we are noticing that the math is at the middle school level is just generally a little bit harder, right? You're getting those concepts become a little bit more challenging. There's formulas, there's a lot that goes into it. And I think we're just seeing that even in the classroom, some of our students are taking a little bit more time putting that together and, taking time to make that progress. And we really want to put them in the best opportunity when they hit the high school level. So that's just really more of a middle school piece that we're seeing right now. But I think we need to we're a school where we have to make decisions for everyone. But it's just something in the conversation right now, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. It's an area that we're looking at right now.
What are the kids getting for LA? They're getting like 2 periods for.
So we get reading and writing.
Yeah.
So we're trying to see, in our ELA scores across the board, even the ones we can't report on, we're doing pretty well.
Mhm.
So we're just looking at, what else might we be able to do with some of those math minutes? Because it's a period a day. And maybe there's something else we could do to better support our students in that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jim. Go ahead.
I know, honestly.
Switch. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
First.
Any public comment tonight? Yeah, then we will move on to the rest of the report. Anything of note, Teresa? Yeah.
Just the one thing that's, I don't think is listed here is that, the personal and, financial forms went out, for everyone to complete, so you check your email and submit those at your convenience. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll need a motion to approve the minutes from the December 20th. regular session.
Seconded.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed or abstained? And another motion to approve the minutes from the January 3rd reorganization meeting.
So moved.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed or abstained? Okay, then we'll move forward with the superintendent report.
All right, good evening again. So this month, we did not have any reported incidents of HIV. So obviously none were identified. We did not have any short term or any suspensions. Our security drill is still planned, but it's not completed for this month. And we had a fire drill on 6th.
And Jim, the school calendar is
Correct. So
same.
the school calendar is the same calendar that we put back in in December where we had talked about it. And I think the big takeaway was that there's 3 articulation days with Del Val, along with all the sending districts. So there's actually 3 days that we have set on the calendar. And the superintendents have been having discussions and will continue to have discussions this year as to what potentially could be the topics for those days. But it definitely gives us the opportunity to an inclusive opportunity for all, depending on what direction we go. It just gives flexibility. Where a specific school could host something, or possibly if it's a high school teachers meeting with a specific group of content area teachers at the elementary level, or vice versa, getting some guidance. It really, or just general speaking on, a hot topic. So it really just opens up the opportunity, I think, for the whole district to work a little bit closer together, collaborating. So definitely, as we have things planned, we'll certainly speak to them as we go through the, next year.
Okay, then we'll need a motion to affirm the HIV report from December 20th.
So moved.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed or abstained? And we need a motion to adopt the resolution for school board recognition month.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed or abstained? And a motion to approve the 23-24 school calendar.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions on the calendar?
Did you say those articulation days are shown on the calendar, or are they just somewhere in there that?
Yep, there are the October. October 27th, January 19th, and then April 19th. Those are the three
Okay,
set dates.
all right.
In addition to some other PDs, we, professional development time we have. Those
Are those new articulation days, or they just?
So the history is, I feel the first year I was here, there was an October one, and which we did host. I can remember being part of with Daria and local superintendents where we hosted specials where some of our staff went for language arts to, I think, Holland, and then Kingwood may have done math, and that happened my first year here. And then we really haven't had it. We may have had it in October and May, but due to the COVID and impact and pandemic impact, we can group together. I believe, and we may have done, there may have been a virtual one or two, but nothing like full-fledged like we've done in the past. Comparison to year one. So I think our hope is we have something next year a little bit more aligned like year one was. Where we have some collaboration like that.
Perfect.
Okay. All those in favor?
I,
Opposed or abstained? Great, and Jim will go back to you for the principal.
Okay, great. All right. So right before break, Marley came and visited us one more time in 2022, which was really a great way to, I think, go into the holiday and the winter break that we had. Then we've been back in January. I think, we rounded out second marking period just last Friday. And so grades will be out. It's coming Friday, and then followed by our oral breakfast will be Tuesday, 31st. So keep an eye out for that. Our team had another opportunity to, work together this past Friday, working on report cards, working on some data, as well as some Lexia integration and things like that. So those were some of our trainings. Miss Hurley and Mr. Belidio attended a countywide visual and performance arts webinar last week too, which was helpful, I think, for them and some of the things that they're looking to do and potentially, get our students involved too in the future. So we'll be reporting more out as they start to brainstorm and take in some of that information. River Union Stage, last month we reported that we were working with them and trying to come up with collaborative opportunity. One of them will be in the classroom like in the past. 5th and 6th grade will be a part of that this year. So they'll be coming in with your approval tonight. They'll be working with us on Tuesdays for 5th and 6th grade. And then they'll also be working with us after school for 5th through 8th grade, an opportunity for an after school club. So one of the things I think everyone knows, we've been trying to promote clubs more than ever at our school this year. And we've increased, with great staff participation, we've increased quite a bit. So Tuesday is the day where we have faculty meetings and so forth. So we don't often have a lot of clubs, although we work with staff members sometimes. But in this case, Miss Smith, Miss Basements, with many of you know, who's a former employee, she's always been a liaison with us from a school perspective, and they'll be working with River Union after school. So that also gives, our students something else to do on Tuesday when the teachers aren't available. And we're hoping to start that, next in the next couple of weeks. So we're excited about that, not only them in school, but also after school opportunity for our students. Kindness Challenge started this week. Miss Iggy and Miss Yard have been out and about and getting everybody ready and sharing with teachers. Students have been doing a number of different things. They were given checklists of opportunities as well as their own creative things to be kind and nice to each other and to other people. And the class that ends up doing it at the end gets an awesome, huge pizza party. So that's on the line. So share, parents ask about that have that part of your conversation at home. Are you in line for the pizza party? And at the very end, if not, we spread a lot of kindness, but somebody, you know, we will have a winner for most participants in a specific class. We 7th and 8th grade students are gonna go to Modern Fossils, this Thursday on the trip with your approval tonight. We've been working closely with our community as we always try to do. And so Ms. Farley's gonna take that group to visit on Thursday. So we're expecting nothing but, you know, another great experience for our students and, you know, few pictures to go along with it, I'm sure. Last month I talked about, us connecting with Route 29 Studio and, Kathleen and a few of the members there. So Kathleen, since we returned, came up and visited our school, got a chance to see a couple places. And then I was like, where's Kathleen? So I found her in the wellness room. So that was just a nice experience. I'm like, oh, she's like, oh, I got there. Working with our staff. So we are planning on, the next exhibit is February 18th at the Art Yard. So we're working on encouraging some of our students to go to that event. Or we're going to encourage our whole community to go to that event. And in the following week, we're looking to connect some of our students with a reflective opportunity at Route 29 once they visit the Art Yard. And then we're going to set up the trip during the school week, and then there'll be a reflective moment there. So we're excited. We're going to get rolling with them as well. And everybody seems to be really excited about that. Okay. 8th graders orientation. I just met with the 8th graders Monday during unfortunately indoor recess. We chatted for a while, just talking about some things coming up in their plan, but one of them, Del Valle orientation, another parent and student orientation on February 2nd. So we've been sending reminders out to the families, make sure they attend that. And our clubs, tutor time continues to do really well with Mrs. Syok. I think many of you saw Eliza Catala, one of our former students. She's back in the mix. She requested, and thank you guys for, you know, she's just doing a wonderful job. Again, as well as our students that are, now that she's in, you see some of our other 6th, 7th, 8th graders getting in the mix too, like to be helpers in that group. So that's been really going well. Basketball continues with Mr. Moran. Mr. Wallard has volleyball club running 5 through 8, maxed out at 15 since day one. So that's excellent. And Mrs. Abolito's maxed out with her running music club as well with the K4 group. So we continue to really, you know, the teacher team continues to do really an excellent job with the after school activities as well, and giving students an outlet after school, which is, I think, always our goal. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I just had one thing to note, and that is that I was in touch with our field rep, Gwen, and she is able to come to our March meeting to do the DEI training that school board offers. So that'll just be a brief training at the beginning of the meeting. And that's our budget approval or preliminary budget approval at that meeting as well. And I think that's all I had. So we'll move on to our consent agenda. Or no, policy, sorry. We need a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the 2 policies listed on the agenda.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions about those policies? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? And we'll need a motion to approve the items in the consent agenda. It's item 12.1 through 12.8, including the 3 additional personnel items on addendum 2.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, comments or questions?
It was great that Ms. Smith again.
Yeah, I agree.
Fantastic.
I agree.
We have a motion and a second.
Yeah, me and Mike. No, me and Lane, sorry.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, then we'll need a roll call.
Mr. Blackburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Bobrowski,
Yes.
Mr. Germany,
Yes.
Ms. Nauman,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Nugent.
Yes. Okay, and number 14, we have some budget discussion, so I'll let Teresa take that.
I don't have like a full document to present to you tonight, and I'm working on that. I'm very close to being able to meet with Jim and kind of look at things and like finalize where we are with that. One of the things that can affect our budget though moving forward is we can talk about chapter 44, and I think we talked a little bit about it at the beginning of the school year. So chapter 44 is the healthcare law that was passed a few years ago now and took effect July 1st of 2020. And the reason that has an implication on the budget is that the law required that the state treasurer do an analysis that it was saving across the state in 3 specific areas: one to the taxpayers, one to the employees, and also to the school boards. So we have to do a very complicated reporting to the state on twice a year on our healthcare costs in order for them to collect the data in order to do this analysis and be able to report out on it. So, and essentially what it does is if you're reflecting that you had any savings, in other words, your actual costs in healthcare went down in the current year from the actual reported in the prior year, it can affect your tax levy, the ability of your tax levy to grow. So our reporting this year indicated that we had a decrease in healthcare costs. So I'm concerned. So the first download of the budget, what they call the first download, came last week, and that first download just gives us the ability to enter data, to pull out some other data from the system, any adjustments that are there. What it doesn't give us is whether or not, or what the amount is on the tax levy, because this report is supposed to be due 60 days after the close of your open enrollment. So our open enrollment was in the open enrollment for 2022 had already happened, and then we were supposed to have 60 days to report. They postponed that, so they didn't have the software available within that 60-day period. So the data was due on January 17th, which is the same week that they released the budget information. So there's no way they imported or was able to do that analysis. So we're not going to get that tax levy adjustment information on the healthcare based on chapter 44 until the second download, which comes after we get our state aid notices. So the governor's budget address is scheduled for February the 28th. And we will receive state aid notices 2 days after that. Within 48 hours, they have to be released. So we'll get that, we'll know whether or not there's going to be a limitation on the tax levy. The good news is there's an appeal process that's available. And the appeal process is for districts to be able to present to the county office information that the savings, if the savings can be proven that it didn't come from employees choosing the educator's health plan, which was part of chapter 44, and it came from some other reason, then if we can prove that to the county, they have the ability to reinstate the tax levy. So I will be doing that on behalf of Frenchtown, because we reported about $130 some thousand decrease in healthcare costs, but it wasn't as a result of the educator's health plan. And those taking, electing to go to the educator's health plan. If you recall, we went from the Public Employers Trust, and then we chose to go back to state health. Those savings came from going to state health, and they had the premium freeze that year. And then they had they are taking into account the premium holiday, which was more complicated in doing our reporting for the actual costs. But there was a premium holiday last February, but supposedly districts are not going to be penalized for the premium holiday that was offered by state health last year. So there, we've also had, employees choose different options. So I will need to be able to present that data to the county office when we get our state aid notices with the quick turnaround to be able to adopt the preliminary budget in March. So that's what chapter 44 is all about. And the next one also has to do with health benefits, which I'm expecting we will actually have be able to demonstrate if there's an increase in our healthcare costs in the budget line item. Every district should be eligible for a healthcare adjustment, which means that the tax levy can go above 2%. That healthcare adjustment is derived from the value of increase on the state health benefit program. And since now we are part of the state health benefit program, any increase in the line that is greater than 2% up to 15% would be eligible for a healthcare adjustment. So we could have the ability to increase our tax levy, and we'll discuss that as we get closer, what that amount is and what the tax impact might be. Also waiting for the pilot information from the municipality. That will be important in our budget development. I'm going to go back and look at the pilot agreement and see and look at the timeline and see when they are supposed to notify us of preliminary numbers and finalize those numbers, so I can get an idea of what to expect from those pilot revenues and how it may be able to help our budgeting process for 23-24. I know that Mr. Hintock and I have been talking about our staffing levels and what our needs might be. We are looking at an increase in special education needs and teaching staff in that area. We're looking to maximize the use of our grant funds the best way possible, maybe moving some things around within the building. I don't know how much you want to go into, like the computer lab, looking at a different way to use that space, but still be able to provide for the needs of the kids through a different type of device and maybe mobile carts and that kinds of thing. So Jim's been having meetings with Mr. Sirigliano at the high school on how to help us with our technology in that area. And so we've been having a lot of different discussions, and then we're just gonna, put it all together, and I'll be able to probably get you something even before the next meeting, so you have an opportunity to look at that. That's where we are in budget planning.
I'm confused about the tax levy for the decrease in state aid. So what they're saying is that we wouldn't be able to increase our tax levy to the normal,
Right.
okay,
So chapter 44, even though we could get a healthcare adjustment,
right,
the chapter 44 would kind of reduce the levy.
right,
So you wouldn't be able to first take the 2%, you would have to just take the healthcare adjustment,
yeah,
which could become, part of the
2%,
2%,
yeah.
but it's a little confusing and I haven't actually seen it before, so I'm waiting to see how it's going
Right.
to actually look, how it's gonna affect the tax levy.
and what
I'm
is
not
the,
sure if they're gonna, because the actual amount that we saved is more than our 2%.
yeah, that's what I was.
So I'm
thinking.
not sure if they're going to take us all the way back, like make us go down the $100,000. I mean, that just can't happen, like,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's not the case, that they're just going to go off the last year's levy and then,
Right,
any increase from there. But I'm not sure how that is going to work.
okay. And then, so you said March 2nd, the numbers are released. And then if we have to go and appeal to the county. Are we gonna be ready for a March 14th preliminary budget hearing? Like,
We may, if not, we may have to have a meeting that day to discuss, and then the budgets are actually due. I think on the 20th.
okay. I think that's it. I think our
Okay.
meeting is the 14th, right?
It is.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, budgets are actually due on the 20th.
okay,
The high school's meeting is on the 20th. But I could see if, because we need to do this appeal process, I may be able to also petition the county office to see if we could submit one day late.
mhm,
And they may grant that request,
Yeah.
so. Yeah, it is gonna be a quick turnaround,
okay.
yeah.
Any further questions for Treasurer? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tristan.
Okay, is there any public comment? Then we'll need a motion to move into executive session to talk about terms and conditions of employment.
I'll make that motion.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Okay. Need to move into executive.
Yes, I can take action. Can I ask that if you're going to be taking action?
Yes.
We will probably be taking action, yeah.
I will go into the
Okay.
From then.
I don't think we'll be very long. It's only one item.
And I have to, in a second.
Okay, we need a motion to approve a request for column movement for Brittany Shirts from BA to MA.
MA, yeah, it's step, MA. And the salary is $63,500. Prorated, it would be effective January 1st.
Okay, prorated effective January 1st with the requirement to submit an official transcript by June 1st of 2023. We need a motion.
So
I'll second.
Okay, comments or questions?
congratulations to Brittany.
Yep.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Okay, then we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Go, want these back?
Yeah.
Do you want these letters?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put them in a file.
That way to start. It's in the
I can-
third.
Well, it's from executive